Hey friends, imagine a giant game of chess, but instead of wooden pieces, the board is made up of countries, natural resources, and powerful ambitions. On one side sits Xi Jinping, the leader of China, alone and unsure what move to make next. He's sweating, holding his king piece, stuck. On the other side, Donald Trump. And he's just made a bold move, a historic deal between the US and Ukraine on 30th, 2025, to work together on minerals. That deal hits China's economy hard, like a sword to the heart. And if that wasn't bad enough, Xi's supposed friend, Vladimir Putin, isn't helping. He's just watching from the side, powerless, like a defeated general from an old Chinese war story, the Three Kingdoms. What a dramatic moment in world politics. Let's break it all down together, with a bit of humor, like the clever strategist Zhuge Liang helping Liu Bei win a key battle long ago. The mineral deal. A sword through the heart of a superpower dream. Let's go back to the Warring States era, a time when feudal lords fought over every inch of land and every copper mine. Today, those copper mines are rare earth elements, lithium and graphite, the lifeblood of modern technology. The recent U.S.-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund agreement, signed by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko, isn't just a business deal. It's a golden arrow fired straight from Washington to Beijing, shattering Xi Jinping's dream of dominating global mineral supply. It all began with a 15-minute secret chat between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky at the Pope's funeral in the Vatican. In that brief moment, they sealed a bold plan that would lay the foundation for this pivotal agreement, one that could reshape the global resource game. Beijing likely held emergency meetings overnight, while Putin may have smashed his desk in frustration at the Kremlin. Ukraine, once seen as a pawn in the Russia-US chess match, turns out to be sitting on a treasure trove. 22 of the EU's 34 critical minerals, 5% of the world's rare earth reserves, 500 million tons of lithium, and 20% of global graphite. This isn't just a gold mine, it's the resource supermarket of the 21st century. And America, with Trump's keen eye as a seasoned dealmaker, swooped in and secured the whole aisle. The terms of the deal are crystal clear. The U.S. gets priority access to rare earths and lithium, while also helping Ukraine build a full supply chain from mining to processing. Xi Jinping, who once wielded rare earths as a diplomatic nuclear weapon, is now left speechless. Back in 2010, China shocked the world by cutting off rare earth exports to Japan over a territorial dispute in the Senkaku Islands, a powerful diplomatic punch that sent prices soaring and nations scrambling for alternatives. At the time, China was smug, feeling like it held the world in its hands. But now, that dominance, built on controlling 90% of global rare earth processing, is crumbling. Like the walls of ancient Chang'an before the brilliant tactics of Zhuge Liang. Zhuge Liang, often called the Sherlock Holmes of China's Three Kingdoms era, was a strategist who could turn defeat into victory with a single plan. And now, with U.S. support, Ukraine is poised to become the new rare earth supermarket, while China, once the global kingpin, finds itself just another buyer, waiting in line. Putin, a brother in name only. Now let's talk about Putin, Xi Jinping's so-called brother. In Beijing's ideal world, these two were supposed to be like Liu Bei and Sun Quan, teaming up to take down a common enemy like Cao Cao. But reality isn't a Three Kingdoms movie. Instead of charging ahead like a mighty tiger, Putin looks more like a wounded Russian bear, stumbling after 3 brutal years of war in Ukraine. The US-Ukraine mineral deal isn't just a blow to China, it's a slap in the face to the Kremlin. Russia once dreamed of using Ukraine as a launchpad to dominate Eastern Europe's resources. Now, all they can do is scream into the void of social media. Russian accounts on X have bitterly called Ukraine America's resource colony. But yelling online won't change the facts. The Russian military is short 174,000 soldiers and is losing 3,000 officers a month. Its security budget is shrinking faster than Liu Bei's wallet after a bad gamble. Meanwhile, Putin's dealing with chaos at home. Peace advocates want to end the war, hawks demand all-out aggression, and internal fractures are widening. 2 high-ranking generals were assassinated near Moscow, and the killers vanished like ghosts from the spring and autumn period. Putin is stuck, torn between factions and pounded by headaches worse than a hangover after a war council. By now, Xi Jinping must be bitterly realizing the truth. Putin isn't Sun Quan. He's more like a drunken Guan Yu, flashy with a sword but useless when it comes to saving the day. Russia, whose economy now leans heavily on China, simply doesn't have the strength to turn the game around. Worse still, Putin had once floated the idea of teaming up with the US on minerals, offering access to Siberian mines, even those in the Ukrainian territories Russia occupies. So much for loyalty. What kind of ally hugs you with one arm while winking at your enemy with the other? Xi Jinping, as lonely as the first emperor. Imagine Xi Jinping as Qin Shi Huang, the mighty emperor who once unified China, only to end his days in isolation, abandoned by the very lords he once commanded. China, with its grand Belt and Road vision, once dreamed of being the center of the world. But now, Xi's allies are falling away like autumn leaves. Russia is helpless. Africa and Latin America are growing wary of China's debt traps, and Europe is leaning toward the US to secure its resources. The US-Ukraine mineral deal isn't just about grabbing resources, it's a direct strike at Xi's deeper ambitions. It not only cuts off a key supply of energy and minerals that China craves, but it also crushes Xi's dream of making the Chinese yuan a global currency. Clause 4 and Clause 8 of the agreement lock Ukraine's oil and gas into the US-Ukraine Fund and guarantee that Ukraine's currency, the hryvnia, can freely convert into US dollars. That's a double punch. No energy for China, and no chance for the yuan to gain global ground. Xi wanted to kick the US dollar off the chessboard, but Trump, with one simple move, turned the yuan into a village currency. Even more ironic? China once bragged about its debt trap diplomacy, handing out loans across Africa and Asia in exchange for resources. But compared to the US-Ukraine deal, Xi's strategy looks like a country bumpkin flashing fake gold in front of Wall Street veterans. The US didn't trap Ukraine in debt, they used a weapons for minerals model, approving $50 million in arms sales to strengthen Ukraine, secure resources, and still walk away with the reputation of a good friend. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's Hambantota port is leased to China for 99 years. Pakistan is drowning in debt. Textbook, cow-cow diplomacy, squeezing allies until they collapse. Trump's 5 fatal arrows at China. The US-Ukraine deal is like Zhuge Liang firing 5 deadly arrows straight into the weak spots of China's global ambitions, each one hitting a strategic pressure point. Let's break it down with a bit of ancient war flavor. 1. Cutting off China's economic lifeline. Just like Zhuge Liang once blocked Sima Yi's grain supply, Trump has moved to choke off China's access to critical resources. China currently produces 77% of the world's lithium batteries, and once thought its dominance was unshakable. But Ukraine's 500 million tons of lithium, paired with American tech, could turn China's EV industry into a wooden horse facing a Tesla hurricane. 2. Crippling the rare earth monopoly. Rare earths have been China's kingmaker's sword, once used to intimidate nations like Japan and the US. But now, Ukraine holds 5% of the global reserves, and with US backing, that sword might as well be a rusty blade. Clause 8 of the deal ensures America gets first dibs on Ukraine's rare earths at market prices. And China? Left standing at the gate, watching. 3. Resource isolation on the global chessboard. Trump has built a resource alliance with the US, EU, Canada, and Australia to box China out. Clause 7 bans any country supporting Russia from profiting off Ukraine's reconstruction, effectively ejecting China from the resource feast. And just to make sure Beijing got the message, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent declared at the signing ceremony. And to be clear, no state or person who financed or supplied the Russian war machine will be allowed to benefit from the reconstruction of Ukraine. He didn't name names, but everyone knew that the arrow was aimed straight at Beijing. China, the economic lifeline for Putin's war effort, from energy and trade to military parts, now finds itself exposed like cow's treasury feeding a doomed army. Number 4. Exposing Beijing's fake neutrality. Throughout the Russia-Ukraine war, China has played the peacekeeper, quietly funding Russia while dreaming of post-war profits from Ukraine. Classic Dong Zhuo-style greed. But those dreams just exploded. The US-Ukraine deal drew a giant red X over China's schemes. Like Zhu Jialian luring Cao Cao into the Red Cliffs trap, Trump has outmaneuvered Beijing, turning it from peace envoy into a sideline spectator. The Belt and Road Initiative? Now just a muddy path to nowhere. 5. Shattering the semiconductor dream. Graphite, of which Ukraine holds 20% of the world's reserves, is critical for semiconductors. With U.S. export bans already cutting China off from chip-making tools, this new resource squeeze leaves Xi's semiconductor ambitions in ruins. No path forward. 6. Elevating Ukraine, humiliating China. Finally, the deal itself sends a powerful message. It respects Ukraine's sovereignty, ensures equal 50-50 cooperation, and avoids debt traps. It's a diplomatic masterstroke, a sharp contrast to China's infamous debt diplomacy. Just like Liu Bei earned loyalty through honor and justice, the U.S. wins Ukraine's trust while casting China as the global villain. The war of perception, the curse of the losing side. China and Russia are like defeated generals from the Three Kingdoms era, desperately trying to cloud the battlefield with a fog of propaganda. You can already predict the headlines. China's Global Times will scream the U.S. is pillaging Ukraine, while Russian media will cry Zelensky sold out his country. But let's be honest, who still believes it? Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko made it crystal clear on X. This is equal cooperation. Ukraine keeps its sovereignty, no debt involved. After losing 20% of its industrial zones to Russia and watching China quietly back Putin, many Ukrainians now see Beijing and Moscow as public enemies number one. No matter how loud their propaganda gets, it's starting to sound like the last roar of a dying beast. Even more telling is China's eerie silence. Aside from nationalistic little pink trolls raging online, Beijing has been dead quiet. Xi Jinping is probably locked in emergency meetings inside Zhongnanhai, looking pale. And China's counter-moves? Maybe they'll pour more money into Africa, maybe they'll ramp up domestic mining, or hug Russia tighter than ever. But Africa's fed up with debt traps, China's mines are choking in pollution, and Russia, barely keeping itself together. Xi is now surrounded on all sides with no escape in sight. Meanwhile, as Xi flounders, Trump moves like Zhu Jialian borrowing the eastern wind, perfectly timed and devastatingly effective. The mineral deal is just phase 1 of his 3-step master plan. 1. Build a resource alliance. Trump is pulling together the US, EU, Canada, and Australia into what's essentially a NATO of minerals, a united front to contain China. Ukraine is just the beginning. Other resource-rich countries may soon follow. 2. Trade resources for peace. By supporting Ukraine, Trump secures mineral access while pushing for peace in the Russia-Ukraine war, forcing Putin to soften his stance. Number 3. Redraw the global order. Control the resources. Control the future. With his sharp, business-style diplomacy, Trump is reshaping the geopolitical map and placing the U.S. squarely at the center. Next to Trump, Xi Jinping looks like a ruler stuck in the past, clinging to dreams of dominance but blind to strategy. He wants to be a modern Qin Shi Huang, but forgets that the first emperor unified China through alliances and tactics, not dictatorship and debt. The emperor without a court. Ladies and gentlemen, the global chessboard has reached a dramatic turning point. The US-Ukraine mineral agreement isn't just a deal, it's a torch burning down Xi Jinping's dream of global dominance. Putin, once seen as an ironclad ally, is now just an aging, powerless bear. And China? Once the leader of the pack, it now stands alone, like the first emperor Qin Shi Huang, isolated before his empire crumbled. Trump, blending the sharp instinct of a businessman with the cunning of a battlefield strategist, has turned Ukraine into his trump card, striking down both Russia and China with a single move. Meanwhile, Xi can only sit within the walls of Zhongnanhai, watching his allies fall and his ambitions unravel. So grab your popcorn, because this geopolitical drama is far from over. The US is charging ahead, Ukraine is rising from the ashes, and China? Xi may soon have to reflect on Zhu Jialian's wisdom. Do all that is humanly possible, then leave it to fate. He may have tried his best, but fate clearly favors Trump, as allies drift away and the game tilts decisively in America's favor. What do you think about the US-Ukraine mineral alliance? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching. See you next time.